Welcome to the Published Author Podcast, where we help entrepreneurs learn how to write a book and leverage it to grow their business and make an impact. I'm your host, Josh Steimle. Today, my guest is Ben Ward. He's the author of a new book just out called Sellership. And this is a little bit different interview today because Ben is actually one of our students from the mastermind, student client. I don't know exactly what to say. We're just friends. But Ben was the first person in the mastermind to finish his book, and it just came out. And so we wanted to get him on the podcast here and talk about his new book, Sellership, which was co-authored with Dr. Greg Reed, and the foreword is by Brian Tracy. And anybody out there who knows anything about sales or reads sales books is going to recognize that name, Brian Tracy. And yes, it's that Brian Tracy who wrote the foreword for Ben's book. And Ben has been an executive, an entrepreneur. He's run a public company. He's built up companies. He's lost companies. We'll hear a little bit about his history and some of what he's been through and what he's building now. And we'll especially talk about the book. But Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Josh. Great to be here.
Excited to have you here to talk about your adventure. This is the one instance on this podcast where I was actually there witnessing you go through this journey of getting this book from idea to publishing. But before we get into the book, tell us a little bit more about who you are and your history, where you grew up, what you're all about, and some of your work history, the professional stuff that you've done.
Yeah, thank you. So I grew up and my parents were divorced. And so they both remarried. And between all of us, there was 15 kids. And every other weekend I'd go visit my dad, and we'd just have sleeping bags on the floor. We'd crash on the floor. And there was this library. So I have my library here behind me, but I slept on the floor to my dad's library. And there was all these books, and over the years, I like noticed them, but I didn't know what they were. And one day I asked him, I was like, "Dad, what are these?" And it turns out they were books on tape. And so he gave me a few of them. And really, from that day, first time I started listening was in high school. And from that day, every time I'd come to his house, I'd bring back the books on tape that he gave me, and he would give me more. And I just developed this love for learning and growing and developing, and that really laid a foundation for me to launch into to a career in sales and leadership and in business. That's kind of the backstory. And one of those books was.
And by the way, for all the kids out there, a tape is what we used before there was Spotify and Audible and like digital stuff. It's before CDs, if any of you remember CDs out there.
Oh, it's so funny. And one of the books was on tape, that I would listen to in my Walkman, which, if you don't know what a Walkman is, like the first MP3 player way back in the day. But Brian Tracy was an author that I really loved, and he was just all about teaching me how to be super effective in leadership and in sales. And I really gravitated to him early on, and he became one of my heroes. And he's written over 80 best-selling books. And so I just loved studying from him. And I always just dreamed, I was like, what if I could write a book like Brian Tracy? And I actually wrote it down. I've tried to write my goals out. I've learned that when you write out your goals, it kind of ingrains them in. And so from years ago, I have a goal of being a published author. And it's just to fast forward. I mean, it's amazing that today, Brian Tracy wrote the foreword like Josh just shared. But it all started with that tiny seed of like passion and desire and thought, listening to Brian's books back in the day, and having that come into fruition for me to write a book with him. I mean, but it's just amazing.
It's fun to connect with your heroes that way, to get to actually meet these people and realize like, hey, these are real normal people. And now I'm connected to one of them.
And they say that, you don't want to meet your heroes because you'll be disappointed, but that has not been the case with Brian. He's so respectful, and he's just such a kind human being and brilliant. In fact, I'll share, I I kind of went from the beginning and all the way to the end. Let me share something in the middle. About 15 years ago, I had a mastermind retreat with a small group of, there's about 15 of us, and we had Brian Tracy come in, and we rented out a cabin, and we had him come in, and I got to spend some time with him. And this was the first time this was the second time I actually met him. And he shared something that day that has been absolutely instrumental. And the reason why I asked him to be to write the foreword and be involved in this project, because he shared something in this meeting. He said that, one of the biggest problems that he's seen in the sales industry, and especially as a salesperson starts to grow and naturally evolves, they naturally evolve into they now start teaching other people and they start becoming a leader, right? Whether it's a team leader, and then like management, and then really ultimately they just kind of progress towards leadership, right? And leading other people. And he said that, I'll never forget this. He said, one of the biggest problems is that somebody that's good at sales being promoted into leadership, there's a gap there. And the problem is, just because you're good at selling doesn't mean you're going to be good at leading. And I'll just never forget being there with them, hearing essentially that message, and it just planted the seed in my mind. And I thought, first off, 100% I've experienced this myself in sales and then transitioning into leadership. It's not a natural, it's different focusing on yourself and then helping other people become good. So I saw that for me, but then as a leader myself, leading teams at that time, I found that that's just super true. Some of my top salespeople who are the worst managers, the worst leaders. And when Brian shared that in that mastermind retreat, it lit a spark in the room, and we ended up talking about that together as a group and as a mastermind. Like, what can we do to help things go right? And so that was the start of Sellership, this obsession that I've had over the years, over these last 15 years, as I've led tens of thousands now of sales leaders all over America and producing hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm not saying this to sound impressive. It just this is the experience that I had. I'm sharing this to impress upon you that there is a pathway, that I've learned there's some secrets, and from what was like shooting darts in the air of hopefully it works out, to no, there's a strategic plan, there's a system, a methodology to help somebody that's really good at sales, to help them transition successfully into leadership. And that's what the book Sellership is all about. And so Brian Tracy's, influence in this has been awesome, from early stages of my sleeping bag as a kid, and the library of my dad's wall, getting those books and then studying, listening to them, and then meeting him and having him do some coaching. And then my experience with leading sales teams over the years, to put that in a book. And he was so excited. He was like, Ben, thank you. Like, I'm so happy that you took those thoughts and you did some amazing work around it. And so he was honored. I was honored to have him be, as part of this work, but he was also honored. It was a really, really fun thing for both of us.
That's such a cool story. One of the things that stuck out there from me is that you had this thought years ago and it stuck in your head. And one of the things we talk about in the mastermind is how, before you come up with a viral book, or you try to come up with a viral book, try to come up with a viral idea. And that's what you had. Brian Tracy gave you this viral idea that sat in there and festered and grew and stuck there. And you're like, there's something big here, that I'm on to something with this idea, and I've got to do something with it. And so finally we had the chance to see that come to fruition. Now, when you came into the mastermind, you weren't planning on writing this book though, right?
No, I had this other idea. So this book was planned as my fifth book, like a sales leadership book, specifically helping leaders lead their teams to success. And that was the original plan. It was a little bit, it's evolved. So that fifth book that I was planning on writing has actually evolved into into Sellership, which we changed the direction of the plan that I had for that fifth book. Having said that, I was planning on doing a whole different book, one that I'm working on now, that's going to be coming out later this year. But my first book was, I came into the mastermind. I told you, hey, I'm going to write this book about overcoming fear. And every single salesperson, every sales leader, like the one skill that somebody in sales needs to overcome is the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt. And how do you do that? And I have this book called Pluck the FUD. The fear, the uncertainty, the doubt. Like, get rid of it in your brain, like you would pull a weed out of a garden. You got to pull a weed out of your mind and pluck the FUD. That was my plan and my intention. And as we strategize together, Josh, you and the mastermind, the team, the mastermind group, you challenged me pretty hard. And it was actually, I was a little ticked off. I'm like, no, this is the book I want to write, and you're like, yeah, that'll work. Sure. But if you want to just ultra strategic, let's take a look at that a little bit deeper on what your first book should be.
Yeah, we weren't shooting down the idea. It just was, maybe the first book should be something else. So what was the point at which you bought into that and you said, you know what? Yeah, my fifth book is going to be my first book. What was the thing that did the switch for you or did the trick?
It was the challenge to build, to have their book help me build my business, and to have the book at the center, right? And have all of the coaching, speaking, training, mastermind groups, the digital courses, those things built around the message of the book. The book is a tool to help grow the business. That right there, it was a tough realization for me, because I was just kind of sold on my idea of what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. But it 100%. Once I got over myself and my plan, and I've focused on what's the most effective thing for my business and for the future and to grow my business, it was 100% just a reliever, and like, yes, this is exactly what I need to do. And I never look back, and I'm just super grateful for that challenge.
And tell us about the business that you're building right now.
Yeah. So I work with especially sales leaders. If you lead a sales team, so anybody who leads a sales team, there's essential skills that every sales leader needs to master. And what I've done is I've packaged my own success as a sales leader over the last 20 years, and help others a lot like myself who've led teams and tried to figure out strategies and be able to help them lead their teams to success, to draw out the best in the people they lead to achieve just high level results. And so I put a business together, coaching. So I do individual and group coaching. I do keynote speaking. I have a digital masterclass, and also I now am an author. I write books. I'm working on my second book right now.
And tell us a little bit more about your sales success over the past 20 years, because sales is one of those things where everybody thinks they're a great salesperson and everybody's a sales consultant, but you've got some meat on those bones.
Yeah. So I started my first sales job. Prior, I was stringing rackets at Sports Chalet. And in 2001, stringing rackets, Sports Chalet earned about $7 an hour while I was paying my way through college. Grew up in a poor family. And so I was at a community college, and I just thought, you know what? Like, I need to be earning more money. This is like, I'm barely scraping by. Like, it's just not really working. And a friend of mine told me he made $10,000 in a summer. And I was just like, what? Are you serious? Like, I would do anything to make $10,000 in a summer. Right. And I ended up going out and knocking doors with him. And it was the hardest thing. My first 2 weeks, I sold zero. And
were you 100% commission only?
100% commission.
Yeah. So at that point, you're like, maybe I should go back to stringing rackets. At least I would have made a couple of bucks.
Exactly. And my parents are like, Ben, come home. Like, this is dumb. Like, stop. you're not making any money. Like my car's broken down. I'm out of money. And it's just like, it wasn't working. But I decided somehow actually, it's not somehow. My roommate, Trevor, he had $100 in his sock drawer of $1 bills. And he told me about it. He's like, Ben, because he knew I was just complete, like I didn't have any money. And I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And he's like, Ben, here. Like he believed in me because he saw like how hard I was working. He's like, it's going to work out for you. And he's like, look, borrow this. I mean, I remember breaking down just in tears, being like, dude, like, are you kidding me? Like $100 back then was like a month worth of just like air and oxygen and food. Right. And like, take me a long way. Anyways, I took that and this changed my life because my first summer, I ended up making $25,000. And then the next summer, I made $50,000. I mean, I'm light speed, fast forwarding, but I mean, my parents didn't make $50,000. Like it was just like game changing. And that was during the summer. And so then the next year I made over $100,000. And then I dropped out of school to go full time. And that next year I made $248,000, just full commission, straight commission, building teams. The following summer I made over 400 grand. And so I'd earned $1 million in sales commission from within those 5 years, going from stringing rackets and from Sports Chalet and all the way to these summer jobs that I did, which changed everything. And then from there, I started a company with the owner of the company I worked with. We started a company, a bundled service company, phone, internet, TV, and security, all bundled together. Back when that was a new thing, and we recruited 2,000 salespeople nationwide, and we blew it out of the water. We actually blew it out of the water, and then we were shot down to the ground, blew ourselves up, and kept bouncing around like a big old roller coaster. And we ended up taking that company public in 2010, and it was incredible experience. And then within a few years from there, I ended up losing everything again. And so it had this, there's actually a whole backstory of that, but it was an operational piece that we oversold and underdelivered. And it was I learned some really hard lessons in that, but
you had the sales part together at least.
Yeah, we were really good at selling.
The sales was great.
That was absolutely our strength. And we struggled operationally, trying to make that happen. But man, some of the best experiences, some of the best lessons, I've been able to take those. And over the last 7 or 8 years now, I've been coaching and mentoring. I worked with an organization, a multi-billion-dollar organization, and helped them scale from startup to 2.2 billion in their in one annual year in sales and leadership. And I coached and mentored with their top leaders. They had over 80,000 leaders nationwide, and my role was coaching and mentoring with their top leaders to help them with their business, with their sales, with their leadership. And I also worked with their internal culture team to help embed, help connect the internal operations with the field and to have cohesive so that everyone works together and to achieve major success. That's a little bit of my backstory of just kind of light speed on my experience in sales and in leadership.
Which is great because you had so much experience there that's so valuable. I mean, you had a company with 2,000 salespeople or 2,000 people working for you, and all the data and all the experience and seeing what worked and seeing what didn't work. I mean, this is going into this book and the other books that you're going to write, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
So let's talk a little bit more about the book. Now, one thing that's interesting is that this book is narrative nonfiction. It's a story, it's a fictional story, but it's set in the business world. And so anybody who's read not Traction, but if you've read Traction by Gino Wickman, he has another book called Get a Grip. That's kind of a story about how to use traction. Or if you've read Leadership and Self-Deception and a bunch of the Patrick Lencioni books are narrative nonfiction. It's a story that is used to get across some business principles and teach some lessons. Why did you decide to write that kind of book versus more of the stereotypical business book?
So I always dreamed of writing a story, but I'm like, I don't have the skill. I'm not like, that just seems really hard. I don't know how to do that. And that's where, in the mastermind with Josh we talked a lot about partnering with people that will help you in areas that you're not strong. and so Greg Reed is an incredible author, entrepreneur, human being. And I was meeting with him, and he has over 30 best-selling books. And he's incredible. He's actually a 5-time film producer. He produced the film Wishman from Make-A-Wish Foundation and a few others. And I was talking with him and just saying, hey, you know what? This is my idea. This is what I'm doing. I want to help sales leaders be able to just, to transition from somebody really good at sales, transition to become just a really good sales leader and helping other people, like really duplicating their success, the way they've been able to succeed, help others to do that. Right. And he's like, oh man, that would be such a good, I was telling him, like, I plan on just doing, nonfiction and just kind of sharing the principles. And he's just like, you should do it in a story. And he's like, in fact, like, let me help you. Cause I told him, I was like, I struggle. I don't even know how to start. I don't even know how to start in writing, a fiction, like a parable. But I'm like, I always dreamed of, he's like, here's the thing. I know how to, and let me help you. If you want, let me go in on this with you. Because he loved the idea. It was a good opportunity for him and an incredible opportunity for me. And it was just and then he also knew Brian Tracy really well. And so we actually texted Brian right then after we talked a little bit more. And we texted Brian, we're like, Brian, this is what we're thinking. And like, would you, and he's like, hey, let's talk more. And so that kind of collaboration, but that was where it shifted from me from being just kind of a, not boring book, because I like nonfiction books that have like all the principles, but like from like a straightforward, like, here's the principle, this is what you do, and this is how you use it, to blending it into an easy to read story that's kind of short, that's packed with principles. And so that's how that started.
Sweet. So what were some of the challenges that you faced along the way? I mean, one of them was figuring out, how do I write this book? How do I actually get it done? And you got a co-author, which is somebody who could help you. Now, you also employed a ghostwriter as well to help with the process, right?
Yes. And so one of the challenges early on was, in working with a ghostwriter, was how do I get these ideas and get them into this person, and do I trust this person to be able to have my voice and take these principles, which I know what I want to share. How do I share it? And so that was one of the first challenges, and it wasn't super smooth right off the bat. And but as we worked together, I started to create a little bit of a system that started to work. I started a YouTube channel about this time, and I started talking about the principles that I'm passionate about, and I started categorizing them and doing a video on a chapter that I want to have my ghostwriter write. Like, so chapter 1, here's some of the principles. So I did a YouTube video, and then I used the transcription, pulled the transcription from the YouTube video, sent it over to a ghostwriter, sent her the video, and then we would hop on a phone. We'd hop on a phone call for about an hour, and we did this. The first one, it was a little bit like rough, and she sent back some thoughts, and I was just like, no, this is not good. This is not what I want. And so I polished, I changed, I like gave as much like real feedback, and like little things like, so I don't drink coffee. Okay, so they had the premise of it at this coffee shop, and the person was drinking, and that's okay. Like, that's fine. But I was just like, that's not really me. And people who know me, it's like, they're not going to really. So just little things and then the messages that was like missed. And so it actually took some time to work back and forth to where by the 3rd or 4th chapter of doing a YouTube video, sending the transcription, and having these phone calls, my authentic voice started to unfold in this book. And so that ghostwriting process was a little bit of a challenge for me, but it ended up being just amazing, taking these ideas and having her put them in a way that there's no way I could have been able to write myself.
Yeah. And it's interesting because people have this idea that you hire a ghostwriter and they just write your book. It's like, well, no, how can they just write your book? You've got to talk with them. You've got to tell them what the book is about. They don't just magically read your mind and they know what you would write. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of investment on the part of the author to make sure that the ghostwriter knows what they're talking about and understands it. Because that's the thing, the ghostwriter has to really fundamentally understand the material of the book in order to be able to write it, as well as the author.
100%. And it's interesting in talking, I've developed an incredible relationship with her. And she mentioned that some people literally just give her, this is what it is, and go to town and like, tell me when it's done. And she's like, seriously, a lot of people, that's what they do. And the author is the one who has the idea, is the expert in that topic, all the nuances involved in it. And so that is one thing that is possible that a lot of people do. But to do it and to get it, the way that you as an author want your book to be, it is a ton of work. It's actually a lot. It's probably as much work as just going and writing it yourself, as far as like time and energy and effort. But having somebody who's a highly effective writer, which I am not, being able to have that partnership where you bring, as the author, I brought the concepts, the extreme knowledge and the skill of the concept. She brought the extreme knowledge in writing, and being able to marry those two is just profound.
And I love how you utilized the videos, that you didn't just say, hey, I'm going to record videos and send them to you and let's use this. But you were like, I'm going to record a video and we're going to put it up on YouTube and we're going to use it to write this book. Like, let's get more out of this. And I had a professor when I was at college, and he called this type of thing shadow time. And he would use it to talk about spending time with your kids. He's like, hey, if you're going to go on a business trip, take one of your kids. Then you're spending time with your kid and you're going on the business trip. That's shadow time. Yes. But I love to apply this to business stuff where it's like, hey, if I'm making a video, why don't I turn that into a YouTube video? Why don't I take out the audio and turn it into a podcast? And then I give it to the ghostwriter and we can turn it into a book. Like, let's get as much value out of this 1 hour of recorded time as possible. And that's what you did. And not only did you do that, but it's working out really well. Tell us a little bit about the YouTube channel and what you've gotten out of it and how it's performing.
Yes, thank you. So so one other piece too, as well, is being able to post little clips of the YouTube channel, the YouTube videos, just on social, on LinkedIn and Facebook, and those little like nuggets to share out there to create that awareness. And so this YouTube channel has been it's been really valuable to, one, help me think through the messages that I want to share, that I've used and applied, be able to think through them and put them in a way where it's meaningful on video. And what's been really valuable is, as I've been meeting with clients and as we're talking, and they're like, yeah, I'm kind of struggling with this one thing. And we talk through it, and the video has been on, where I'll be like, hey, you know what? I did a video on this. So you might want to take a look at it. And I'll send them a link to, right now I have 40 or 50 videos. I just started it maybe 6 months ago, but 40 or 50 videos up there that have been really valuable with clients. And then they're sharing them with their teams and be like, oh my goodness. And I'm getting feedback from a lot of people saying like, hey, I watched your video and we just use this in like our team training meeting. And it's creating awareness and one, adding value and creating awareness to my business to where people are more aware of what it would be like to work with me by watching my video and seeing kind of the concepts. And so you're right, Josh, it's, doing those videos has been actually extremely valuable in being able to take that content and, put it into things like my book, putting it into the framework for my digital course, putting it to helping with individual coaching and teaching as I'm working with my clients, and as future clients, people I'm like maybe interested in working with me, like, hey, check this out and see, just kind of get a taste. And I've gotten clients that way as well. So it's been a great investment of time.
One of the fun parts of your story is that when we talked about setting up your personal brand website and getting a domain name that is your name, the challenge is Ben Ward is pretty common. I mean, there are a lot of Ben Wards out there, and yet you were able to do it. You're able to go out and get benward.com for your personal brand website, which I'm still like thrilled about, because I'm like, that is such a win to get that common of a name and get that domain name. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, this is a mini miracle that happened where I tried 10 years ago to get benward.com and it wasn't happening. And through the course, and Josh has a workbook that is incredible. It breaks down just the importance of having your personal brand website to help with speaking. And I was just deflated. I'm just like, there's no way. Like, I'm gonna have to go get not even benward.net, not even like none of those are available. And so I'm gonna have to do like benward6493 or like .com. Like, and anyways, I've just had this impression to reach out, to try again, to reach out to these people, but nobody was really using it. It wasn't like a dominant domain. And while I was doing the workbook, I'm like, you know what? I gotta get this domain. Anyways, my YouTube video. So check this out. This is like one of those miracles where the YouTube video, investing in that time and energy, you never know how things are going to work out when you get started and you start taking action. But I reached out to these guys and said, hey, I've been trying to get this for years. I'm noticing that it's not really being used. At the same time, I scrolled through Facebook and I didn't even know this, but there's over 1,000 Ben Wards just on Facebook alone, like worldwide. And I just was like super bummed. I'm like, there's just like, man, if I could only get my domain, that would be amazing. Anyways, I reached out to these guys and just said, hey, I would, and I'm like kind of transparent. I'm like, I feel really exposed because like I'm sending them an email from Ben Ward, like my Ben Ward email. So they know that like they have all the leverage in the world.
Yeah, they know that you want it.
they know that. So here's what happened, Josh. It was crazy. They go to research me. They didn't respond right away. I sent them that email. They research me and they find my YouTube channel. And in the comments, I wish I had a picture right here to show you. I'd show you I could find it. It would take me a second. In the comments though, they're like, hey, we're the ones who own benward.com. We just watched this video and we're seeing like kind of the type of work you're doing. We just talked to him and his partner. Like, we love what you're doing. We love your passion. And we've had a ton of people reach out to us. Recently, we decided we're going to sell this sometime this year. But you know what? We'll sell it to you. And they made a comment in my YouTube video saying, hey, it's us. And let's, let's talk more because we're good. We'll sell it for you. We'll provide it to you. And anyways, then we took it offline and they emailed and said, hey, here's the thing. And it was just this big miracle. And I ended up getting benward.com. And it's up right now. Go check it out. It gives a little taste on what I'm up to.
Man, that's such a great story. As somebody I've bought and sold thousands of domains, and to hear that story is just thrilling because domains are like real estate. But the problem is there's only one of everything. There is literally no two domains. And yeah, if you couldn't get benward.com, you'd get like ben-ward.com. Of course, that's probably taken too.
It is,
and
yeah.
every variation. And yeah, you'd end up with some weird thing with a bunch of numbers or something that doesn't make sense. And you'd always be like, oh man, if I could just get benward.com, but there's only one, but you got it. And that's it's amazing.
Thank you. I know it's crazy. And here's what I want to share. Here's what I want to share right now with you, with those that are watching and listening. What I've found, so that's like a mini miracle. I mean, that's a big miracle. That's like awesome for me. And like what I've found is I've worked with leaders and successful people over the years is that these little miracles. Now your miracle may not be the same as, maybe you're not going to get like your specific domain, or maybe you already have it, but maybe like, but as you start taking action, you step in from the light where you're comfortable into the darkness where it's like, I don't know how it's going to go. When you start taking action and decide to move towards your dreams, I don't know what exactly it's going to look like, but little miracles will start happening. They'll start happening. You're going to have opposition. You're going to have like all the opposition is going to come, but as you keep going through the opposition and push forward, like listen, the easy part is learning the skills to succeed. The hard part is guarding our minds and taking action despite fear. And so when we do that, when we guard our minds and take action despite fear, these little mini miracles start happening. And I've seen lots of them happen for me as I've stepped into the dark. And this one little impossible thing about my domain, like somehow came into fruition. And I know the same is true with you. As you have an idea for your book, right? As you have an idea for something that's on there, as you just, you commit, say, all right, I'm going to take action towards it. And you keep moving towards that. I've found that just that alone gets us into motion to where all of a sudden, I mean, this miracle happens where like, I have my first book, it's done. And you can too. And I just want to share that like these many miracles, this will happen as we start moving towards the things that we want in our life.
For sure. Action begets results. So you already hinted at it, but you've got a few more books that you're going to be working on. Tell us about the next one that's going to come out.
So the next one is, I shared a little bit of the idea of about a garden, and just like, you got to get rid of the weeds in a garden or else it chokes out the plant. I found the number one skill, the number one thing that holds us back in sales and in leading a sales team and in life, really, let's get real, just in general, is what holds us back is inevitable fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Things that they're like, oh, I can't do that because of this. Oh no, there's no way. Who am I to be able to do this? These seeds of doubt and things that will stop us from moving towards our goals. And the number one skill to become successful is learning how to get rid of those, how to uproot them. And I've developed a formula. I call it the fearless formula. And I'm putting that together in my next book called Pluck the FUD. And so Josh, I've done keynotes on this all over. And this one thing, people who have been in the rooms with me, there's been thousands of people that to this day, like so many people are like, Ben, pluck the FUD. And it's just been this catchy, like it's kind of like a pattern interrupt. It's like, wait, you said what? Like, and anyway, so this idea has been, over the years, has been so helpful for me personally to get rid of my own fear. Okay, Ben, you got to pluck the FUD. Get rid of that thought. That's, in these 4 words, these 4 magic words, there's a tool. I reject that thought. Like, you might have this thought. It's like, I reject that thought. Like, you got to get rid of those. And so I'm really excited because this formula has never been trained on before, never been taught before. It's never been you've never seen it in any books. You've never seen it anywhere. It's a formula born out of 20 years of extreme, intense rejection and facing fear day and day, like door-to-door sales, 10 years personally of door-to-door sales and leading teams myself in the trenches with teams. And like, how do you like in a practical day-to-day manner, how do you get rid of that fear when it shows up? And how do you keep getting rid of it? What's the strategies around that? So that's my book that's coming out. I'm excited about.
How would you apply this concept of pluck the FUD to being an author? Because there are a lot of authors out there, first-time authors, who are saying, I want to write a book, but nobody's going to care. I want to write a book, but nobody will read it. Nobody will buy it. Or I want to write a book, but I'm going to invest all this time. And then am I really going to get the ROI on it? There's a lot of uncertainty, doubt, fear for first-time authors, and heck, not even just first-time authors, even 10th-time authors. So how would you walk a first-time author through getting over that using your pluck the FUD methodology?
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So for me, what I found is that when I was writing this book, there's kind of 2 things happening. One is, how do I do it technically? What are what are the technical skills to even write a book? And what's the pathway? And is the best way, so I have these note cards, how do you think through, the structure of the book, and what are the principles you put in? There's all that, and the skill set required that you learn and develop. And then there's the other side, which is the fear side saying like every minute that I just spent got me nowhere. Like what I just wrote or what I just like, it didn't take me forward. And it feels like a vacuum of like wasted time and space and the fear and doubt saying you're wasting your time, at least for me, was real. And so to your question, like how, like how do you deal with that? Right? Like, well, how do you take this methodology and get rid of that? And here's what I found is that there's a natural tendency. It's normal. It's normal to fixate on what you don't want. Right? And so there's this fixation error, which is like, I don't want, for me, it was, I don't want to waste all this time and not finish my book. I don't want to waste all this time and not finish my book. I don't want to waste my time and not finish this book. What am I doing? This is a waste of time. What am I? And I started fixating. And as soon as I fixate on, hey, this is wasting my time, it's not going to produce anything. I've spent hundreds and actually thousands of hours on these ideas, and I've spent hundreds of hours writing, and I'm not where I want to be. And there's just this natural tendency to fixate there. But here's the key: is you got to is rather than, for me, what I learned, rather than fixating and focusing on what I don't want, shifting that focus on what I do want. And that's, I envision myself as a published author. I envision myself being able to take these ideas that I know are there and bring them to life in a book and complete it. And so fixating, when we start fixating, it's normal to fixate on what we don't want. What's not normal is to uproot that and be like, no, and fixate on what it is that we do want. And in my case, it was, I want to become a published author. And if I wouldn't have made that shift to the shift of focus, because where focus goes, energy flows, right? And so when we're focusing on, and if we're focused on like how hard it is and why this isn't going to work, and this is a waste of time because it's just not getting, and I'm not enough. I'm not, like, how could I even do this? And shift that into focusing on what it is that you do want, your ideal, the dream of envision. And then, like I said, although my last thought on this piece is that the easy part is learning the skills of like, what do you do and how do you do it? And one way it's easy is because if you hitch your trailer on somebody who knows what they're doing, like, for example, Josh Steimle. Like, Josh is, as a mentor of mine, like, Josh, you've been able to help me go from not knowing how the technical pieces of it and like, what do you do in the system and the format and the formula and how does it work? And you have a workbook, which is I couldn't recommend any more to anybody listening to this right now. And if you want to hear more about it, if you want to hear me rant and rave, call me. I'll take your phone call. Let's schedule me. Let me tell you why and how this workbook is so powerful. But that's the technical skill. That's the easy part. The hard part is guarding your mind and taking action in the face of fear. And so you got to pluck the FUD and take action towards every day, daily action towards your goal in writing your book.
I would guess that if we talk to an evolutionary biologist, they would say that we evolved this way to have the fear, uncertainty, and doubt because we used to be in caves and it was, gee, I want to go get some food, but there's a saber-toothed tiger out there that's going to kill me, or a mastodon will step on me or something. And so that was a very useful thing to have, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It kept us alive. But today, we don't have to deal with that type of stuff, most of us. And when it comes to publishing a book, what's the worst that can happen? We're not going to die. You're not going to go broke writing a book. You're not going to lose your career. You're not going to ruin your life. I mean, you could, I guess, but probably not going to happen. The worst case scenario is nobody reads it, nobody cares. That's not that bad. But the upside, the potential benefit, is that a bunch of people read it and they do care. And then they want to hire you. And then your business is doing fantastic. So, I mean, there's really very little downside other than losing a couple of hours. And there's this huge upside. And so we have to resist our biology that tells us to fear and just move forward, like you're saying. So thanks for sharing that. I just put Ben on the spot with that. He wasn't prepped for that or anything. So that was great. Well, Ben, it's been great to talk to you about your book, Sellership, how top salespeople become remarkable sales leaders. If you're into sales, you definitely have to read this. If you're into just business generally, you'd still probably want to read this because sales is part of everything with business. And we know the best place to find you is benward.com, but you can also find Ben on YouTube. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him everywhere. Any parting words, Ben, before we say bye-bye?
No, thank you, Josh. You've been an incredible mentor for me. I just want to just personally thank you for all of your mentorship and helping for me to become a published author for the first time, taking my dream and helping to have this become a reality. So I deeply, sincerely thank you.
Well, thank you, Ben. It's been a pleasure to have you in the group. And I've been so thrilled to get this book and see the book and look at it. And I mean, I didn't write the book, but just looking at it and knowing that, I kind of had a small role in this, like that makes me so excited to get this out there and see people reading it. So we'll be excited to monitor the progress of it and see what it does. We'll have to have you back in a year or two to say, okay, here's how I actually leveraged the book and here's what it's done for my business. So I'll look forward to that follow-up story. Thanks so much, Ben, for being with us here today.
Thank you, Josh.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to spread the word, please give us a 5-star rating review and tell your friends to subscribe too. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts. And if you're an entrepreneur interested in writing and publishing a nonfiction book to grow your business and make an impact, visit publishedauthor.com for show notes for this podcast and other free resources.